This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information.
What's going on, everybody? Crispy Bacon here, coming to you for On Deck here on Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I'm here with Greg. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, Chris. How you doing?
I am doing good. This past week has been All-Star Week in MLB. Kind of the pause of the regular season, celebrating, the All-Stars of baseball with events and, of course, the All-Star game. I'm going to start off with the Home Run Derby. What did you think of the Home Run Derby? They kind of changed the format a little bit. No bracket style tournament, just the best players kind of, hitting home runs.
Yeah, I thought that the home run derby was pretty good. It's it's always going into the last few home run derbies. They've had Pete Alonso. They always think that he's always going to be in the thick of it, and he's kind of one of the front runners to always end up winning it. So it's always nice when you can see a new champion and see someone kind of come out of nowhere to get it done.
Yeah, I didn't really catch the home run derby or really All-Star weekend, but who won the home run derby?
I
can probably find it.
I know. I think it was somebody off the Dodgers, maybe, or
was it Ohtani?
No, but he hit a bomb in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I heard something about that. Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah. One of he's the one that got away from old Sarge's Mariners there. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of pop. I wasn't really expecting him to have as good a showing as he did, but man, he was getting a hold of them.
So I can probably pull up how the results went for each matchup. We don't know now who won it, but it's interesting to go back. And I know some people might think that as spoiling it, but it's always fun too. So in the first round, Garcia hit 18, Hernandez hit 19. You have Alonso with 12, Ramirez with 21, Bazzani, I think his name is, with 16, and then Henderson with 11. Top four moved on. So Hernandez got 16 and moved on when he faced when he had his matchup, and then you had Witt Jr. in the finals. Basically, it was 14-13, close matchup. Like I said, I didn't, catch the home run derby. I like watching it. Maybe I can find it, but what did you think of the format change, just being at the top four advanced in the top two?
It makes the home run derby a little bit. Here's the thing: the MLB wants to cut down on the time it takes for games and trying to have pitch counts and stuff like that. Trying to speed up the game, trying to make it so that the games are a little less. Trying to shave the time down off the games with the pitching clock and everything like that. But then I think that with the new format, it kind of extends the home run derby a little bit. But I think that people, when they're there for the All Star break and everything, I don't think they mind having to sit it out a little bit longer to wait a champion. So I think that adds a little bit more competition. I think it gives a couple other people a fighting chance where they would have likely been eliminated off the old format. So I think that it gives somebody kind of a sneaky chance to maybe make it into the finals.
Yeah. Uh, it does make it interesting. I know they had a tournament style last year, but in a way, this is kind of still, keeping that tournament tradition alive, so to speak. And I know All Star Week numbers were up according to Fox Sports. It was the best one they've had in a while. Um, but I think some things will change. One thing that possibly will change is going back to team uniforms. Not the team uniforms we saw this weekend, but playing in your actual team uniform. Good idea?
That's kind of the way that they had it for like many, many years was you just kind of show up in your team uniform and you're either going to have your away colors or you're going to have your home colors, but everybody just kind of plays in their original uniforms. Um, considering how the uniforms look this year and everything, I don't mind teams going back to just wearing their actual team uniforms and stuff. Maybe have like the same hat or something,
Yeah,
instead of a different hat. Something like that to make it so that everybody's in unison. But I really don't see a problem with teams wearing their own uniform in whites or grays or whatever, because that's been kind of the standard, and they just don't seem to be able to get a pattern or some kind of style right. It looks a little flashy and everything. So I wouldn't mind going back to just having them wear their uniforms and then maybe just have like a patch or a hat or something that just says National League or American League on it.
yeah, that's a good idea. And because I know I've had this kind of experience too. You see an athlete, a player, you know them by their uniform, their jersey number, what team they play on. But
Yeah.
when they're away from that team or they're in public or like the All Star game, in this situation, you're like, who's that? I don't know who that is. Then you're kind of working off of details, maybe facial features and stuff like that. It can be a little difficult. Whereas if you wore the team issued jersey that you play for most of the season, it's a little bit easier to figure out.
Yeah.
But at least the jersey didn't hinder the game. We had a good game this past All Star weekend. American League won against National League 5-3. Uh, couple crazy things happened, as far as scoring goes. Shohei Ohtani kicked off the scoring uh, for the National League. Pretty much the only player putting up points for the National League, as Ohtani hit a fly ball to right center field, uh, and pretty much it became, with two people on base, he scored, so it was 3-0. Uh, Juan Soto had a double to make it 3-2, 3-2 National League, and then David Fry singles tie it at 3-3. That was a single, and then another home run by Jarian Duran with a fly ball to right center, and then Anthony I can't say his name.
Santamander.
Yeah, he scored, so it was 5-3. He pretty much won it for American League. But some of the numbers weren't bad either. We had we had that rookie pitcher for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Paul Skeens.
Come up. Paul Skeens.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite the bright spot for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, he's came in and he's been lights out. He's been racking up strikeouts. He's racked up quite a few wins since he's been called up from AAA. And then, like the first rookie pitcher to start in the All-Star game in quite some time. So he's having quite the rookie campaign.
Yeah, he is. He's been one of the, I won't say Cinderella stories, but he's been one of the top stories of the MLB season. Kind of like for the Rangers. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there's a lot of good storylines in this MLB season, and we're only halfway through. And as we, continue that, the second half of the season, which starts tomorrow, what has been your biggest storyline or biggest moment of the first half of the season?
I think one of the bigger moments for me is when you have a pitcher that's absolutely rolling and, they're still throwing gas and they're still looking good. And then for some reason, managers make a decision to pull someone out of the game. Like when a guy's got a one hitter or a no hitter going on and they come out and pull somebody, when someone is 2 innings away from a no hitter, instead of giving someone a chance to finish it out or see if they can do it, just pull somebody because they're kind of basing everything off of analytics. I think that's a huge story when so many managers and so many teams are going off of information instead of just going with instinct. I love the baseball from the 70s and 80s, Whitey Herzog, you know. And Lou Piniella and a lot of those old school managers, they never took somebody out just because a computer algorithm told them, what the odds were and what was going to happen and stuff. They just went by instinct, and they could look at a pitcher, look at his eyes, and they could tell if he was done or not. And so, not so long ago, Paul Skeens got pulled out. He was willing and dealing, had a no hitter, through seven and a third, got pulled based on analytics. I'd be kind of hot about it, but he didn't seem to be too worked up about getting pulled. But it's those kind of little things that kind of irritate me in this game and in this era, because it just seems like too many times they're relying on metrics and analytics and stuff instead of just going out and playing the game and seeing what happens. I think that sometimes you just gotta go with your instincts instead of worrying about um, what the computer says or thinks, or worried about the law of probability, because sometimes the law of probability is wrong.
It is, and I would be kind of upset if I was a pitcher and you pitched 100 fastballs or whatever, and you're like, your manager's like, yeah, we're gonna pull you. It's like, no, I'm feeling fine. but I know it's not like the 80s, 70s, or even 90s where that can happen. I know the medical has changed a little bit. We know kind of how the rotator cuff works, I think, and you kind of have to limit it.
Yeah, I just know that when Nolan Ryan was pitching and he has 7 no hitters in his career,
Hmm.
no one ever thought about pulling him out just because he had 100 pitches. If he said that he was fine, they just went with it and they kept their behinds in the dugout. And if he said I'm done, they pulled him. That's just the way it worked. And if he needed to throw 150 pitches to get through a game, that's what he did. If he could get through on less than that, but they never just came out and crunched a bunch of numbers and said, "Oh well, you got a no hitter through 8, but we think that this one guy might squeeze a single off you. We need to bring in the bullpen." That stuff just never happened in the 70s and 80s and the early 90s. That's just stuff that was unheard of. So.
Yeah, and it's rare now when you have a complete game with a no hitter and all that. Um, but maybe things will change. Who knows? Um, as more advances, continue, maybe we figure it out more.
Yeah, I miss the days when we used to see a pitcher um, get 12 to 15 complete games in a season. Not necessarily all wins, for those complete games, but they go the full 9 innings. Games where you only see 2 or 3 pitchers in a game instead of, the 30th game of the season, and you see the entire bullpens depleted, for the
Mhm.
game.
Right. Uh, right now, as we look at the standings for what's to come tomorrow, we have Baltimore in first place, 58 and 38. Uh, New York's in second. You got Boston, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. I think that has kind of been playing out as we expected, don't you think?
It has. I think the only thing about it is I expected I expected the Blue Jays to put up a little bit better showing this year. I mean, they were a team for the last couple of years that had a lot of promise. They had a lot of young kids. You have Vlad Jr., you have Dante Bichette's son Bo, you have Kayvon Biggio, you have George Springer, who was a great pickup a couple of years ago from the Astros. Um, you have decent talent, and every year they're kind of like the Buffalo Bills. We've been hearing about their promise for the last few years, and now they're just kind of going downhill. And I don't know what the deal is there. I don't know if it's pitching inconsistency. I don't know if they're too young or what. But out of this whole group, they fell the furthest, while the Red Sox have actually probably improved the most over the last couple seasons.
I can see that right now. Toronto is sitting at 14 games back of the division, but in the wild card, there are only 9.5 games back of the wild card. In the AL Central, Cleveland's on top of the division, 58 and 37. Then you have Big B's Minnesota Twins. My last year's pick for the World Series, Kansas City Royals. Then you got the Detroit Tigers and mess around Dave's Chicago White Sox, kind of in last place, 27 and 71. 32 games back of the division, 27 games back from the wild card. Uh, if you're the White Sox, do you just call it a season?
I think that they already have. I mean, they only have a couple bright spots going on right now. They have pitcher Garrett Crochet, who has phenomenal stuff. He has an excellent curveball. He has great finishing pitches. A good strikeout per walk kind of guy. Ks per 9 innings kind of guy. You have a couple decent players still in the lineup that can hit, but I think that for the most part, they're pretty much um, checked out. They're definitely probably going to be selling, during the season before season's end, on a few guys, and it's really sad because they're a team that, in my opinion, aren't as bad on paper as they really are, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they shouldn't be 32 games out.
They shouldn't be. I mean, things can change, but it's not looking too good for them. Maybe they
Oh
can.
yeah, their season's done. I just don't understand. It's not like they're just playing with a bunch of AAA talent. They have some pretty decent players. I mean, they don't have a ton. They're not as loaded as the Orioles or the Yankees, or the Dodgers or the Phillies or anything like that. But I mean, they have decent enough talent. They should have at least 10 more wins on the board, in my opinion.
You think that? I mean, there's some close games they had, uh, but maybe they can at least climb out of third place. Who knows? Or last place, they can
Yeah,
climb to third place. But
it just seems like the entire city of Chicago, all their sports teams are just kind of not looking good.
yeah, definitely. And then we move on to the final division in the AL West. Mariners are sitting in the top dog spot, 52-46. Houston Astros, who started out the season really bad off, many people didn't think, they can get, to the top of the leaderboard here. They are with a record of 50-46. Rangers, after winning that World Series last season, of course, like many other teams in any sport, they have a slump of their own. They did win 7 out of the last 10 games heading into the All Star break, uh, which puts them at 46-50. You got James's Angels, who are 41-55 in the fourth spot. Uh, Maybe things can change in the second half. Who knows? And in the team that we all thought would probably be in last place, the Athletics, Oakland Athletics, Vegas Athletics, I don't know, the Athletics in general. They are 37-61 right now, 15 games back of the division, but 17 games back from the wild card spot. Who do you think is going to take this Wild West division?
It's a pretty tight race in the West. The Mariners have solid pitching. The Astros still have a pretty deep lineup when everybody's healthy. You have Alvarez, Altuve, Bregman. Um, you have Tucker. So, and the Astros have really done a good job of climbing out of their hole. They started out in a really bad rut. Um, the fact that Texas is 46-50 kind of surprises me, considering that they were last year's champs. But they've just been kind of one of those teams where they really haven't had a lot of good run support for their better pitchers. John Gray has struggled quite a bit this season. He's not having near the year that he had last year. Scherzer's fairly new into the pitching rotation after coming off the injured list. But they're definitely a team that I think that can kind of catapult up towards the top if they can stay healthy. They just need to do a little bit better job with getting runners runners in. Their hitting with runners in scoring position has been horrendous this year. You know, they have no problem getting people on through walks or base hits, but it's getting them from first to second or first to third. That's been a real struggle this year. But I think that the Mariners, statistically, I think that the Mariners have the best pitching rotation right now, in the division. So I'm going to kind of give them the edge just because I think that, with Wu and Gilbert, um, and some of those other pitchers that they have in their rotation and their bullpen, I'm going to give it to them because as we see in the playoffs and how world championships are won, pitching's where it's at. So right now, I'm going to go with the front runners and think that they're going to be able to kind of hold off the Astros this year.
I can see that. James, how you doing?
Oh, I rushed here. Rushed back home. I caught some of the show. I was rushing through my work, but hey, good to be here. I see you guys are going through the standings right now.
Yeah.
And
what do you think of the West?
AL West, our division, man. I always thought the Astros were going to win it somehow. They just have that experience, and you can never discount that. I know they had a bunch of pitching injuries and starter injuries, but little by little they're getting them back. It just depends on if they keep them. And offensively they hit very well. Now, with Seattle, okay, you talk about a team that really is streaky. They got first place. They come to Anaheim last weekend, and you would think they would take 3 out of 4. But guess what? The opposite happened. The Angels took 3 out of 4. I was shocked as hell by that. Their bullpen lets them down, which should be one of their strengths. Their offense, they look for the 3-run home run. They do not have the solo shot artists. They need to go out and get a big bat, and that's going to hurt Seattle. So I'm waiting to see what happens. But I think Houston's going to take it. Texas might make it interesting, but they're banged up as well, as you know, Chris.
Yeah.
The Angels you can't really trust, and Oakland is just the A's. They're playing for, the next year's in Sacramento, even though you can't say the city name. You could just say Athletics, which is stupid.
California A's.
I would hate that because the Angels were the California Angels, but
Yeah.
I think Houston's going to take the AL West. I still have that as I predicted beginning of the season.
What about the other divisions? We did the East and the Central.
Okay, for the AL East, man, I feel like the Orioles are going to take that like they did last year, and they're going to get even better. Remember, they lost a couple starters to injuries. One for a while, and then one just for a 15-day IL. But the Yankees, even though they have a great record, their fans are panicking because their starters are not that well right now. They need to go out and get a closer. They need to get better consistent hitting. It seems like the Orioles have all of that, and they just need a little more in the bullpen to get them going, I think. Boston, you got to give them all the credit in the world. To see their record at 53-42, no one had them 11 games above 500, even though they're 4.5 out too. I think it's a miracle that the hitting has been good as we thought. But guess what? The young starters for them have been really good as well. And I hope they don't trade Kenley Jansen, even though I think the Dodgers might make that reunion happen in LA. But hopefully Boston bleeds them dry and gets what they want. Toronto, man, well, let's get Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I knew this was going to be a down year, and it's showing, with the Wander Franco situation, you knew they were losing a possible MVP and all-star candidate there. Arozarena can only do so much, and Paredes and Diaz. they just don't have the starters like they used to. Remember, they traded Glasnow, they got Pepitote, but they were going to have a down year once in a while. And then Toronto, I feel like is going to break up everything. They're going to try to sell whatever they have. I don't know if they sell Vladimir Guerrero Jr. away, but Bichette, among others, Springer possibly, whoever wants to take on that dumb contract. But I think Toronto's going to stay in last place. So I'll give it to Baltimore.
Give it to Baltimore.
Yeah.
What about
Central?
the Central? Cleveland's
you
on
know,
top.
I'm happy for Cleveland because I don't think anybody thought they would come back from last year, and I think everybody thought, oh, they're just going to trade Jose Ramirez away, but the young guys, the Naylor brothers, have come out swinging. I love Tristan McKenzie, and that rotation is really good with BB among others. I really like what they're doing in Cleveland. They're building up, and the future's already here. And then credit to Minnesota. They had a horrible start to the season, if you recall, and then they came back and they've been on a winning streak here and there. And for them to be there in the wild card picture is great. Also, look at Kansas City. I know they've been struggling a little bit as of late, but they had, I think, 4 All-Stars in the game on Tuesday. To see them, above 500 is amazing to see, and they're back, and they're also one of those teams that are building for the future. Detroit, however, man, I wanted them to take that step forward, just like Kansas City has, but that hasn't happened. They need to retool whatever they have. Spencer Torkelson, they got to figure him out, either give him another shot or just send him away. The young guys really have to step up, but it seems like they're always a year away or a little bit more. Javier Baez was not a good signing, and I just feel like their manager is probably on the hot seat, AJ Hinch, if they can't get it going. And then the White Sox, man, they're already 32 games and a half out of first place. They're trying to sell whatever they have. Garrett Crochet, among others. Lewis Robert, maybe gone too. Maybe to the Dodgers. We'll see how much the Dodgers make a splash. But, yeah, the White Sox outside, they're just looking to get rid of whatever. So I think everything will stay the way it is, and Cleveland wins the division.
Now we move on to the NL East. Philadelphia's in the lead, 62. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I give credit Philadelphia. They've been the leaders all the time. I just hope they'd have thrown the Dodgers in the NLCS. They obviously played a important 3-game series, I believe, last week, and the Phillies swept the Dodgers in Philadelphia, so that was cool to see. Atlanta's going to make some moves at the deadline to try to either catch up to Philly. They're 8.5 out, though. But they got the first wild card, and maybe they'll be bulking up in the outfield and get another rotation man. Chris Sale has been amazing, along with Perez there in their rotation. Oh, no, Ronaldo Lopez, excuse me, the former Angel. Both of them have been amazing, just stellar years by them. The Mets, they're just trying to stay in the wild card, and they've been doing that. At least they're not, putrid. They're 3 games above 500, and they have their head above water. Now they got to figure out here. They keeping Pete Alonso and Lindor, some of their core players, or are they going to get in touch with reality and just let them go? For Washington, remember, they started off well, and then, eventually those young players are not going to be as good, even though they had, I think, a couple All-Stars in the game. But they're exciting. They're going to be an exciting team in the future. Just give them the time to build, because remember, they lost Soto, they lost Harper before that. Strasburg is gone. Scherzer's gone. Everybody's gone from the winning times. But I think they're poised, and they've built the right way through the draft, and they're going to be fun. Miami, 30 games under 500, 29 games out of first, man. All their pitchers are on Tommy John or something. They have all the players that really nobody wants or that don't want to be there, they're going to be active at the trade deadline as well. I think it's going to stay the way it is, and Philly wins the NL East.
Greg?
I think that for the NL East, I think that the Phillies are gonna win the division. I think that the Braves are gonna make a move. I think that they have good pitching and their older pitchers with Old Man Morton and Chris Sale. They're still bringing good stuff on the bump, but I think that. As it sits, I think that Philly just has too volatile of a lineup right now. Schwarber's hitting well. If you get Harper healthy, you know, Trey Turner, if he's healthy, you just have a lot of really, really good contact hitters for the Phillies. They can put up a lot of runs. Wheeler still has good stuff. He's had a few bad games this season, a few off games, but Nola's very consistent. They just have decent pitching, and they don't have a lot of weak spots. So I think that the Phillies are gonna keep pace, and I think that they're gonna end up finishing the division this year instead of being a wild card.
And right now, the Marlins are in last place. I don't think they're going anywhere. You guys agree?
I'm sorry, you mentioned the Central, Chris?
No, I just saying the Marlins are in last place. I don't think they're going anywhere.
For the next 5 years, yeah.
But yeah, in the Central, you got Milwaukee at number one, and you got Chicago Cubs in last place. Any thoughts? Bye.
Yeah, I'll take it. Milwaukee, I think they're gonna make some. They've already made a slight move again. Dallas Keuchel, remember, he's a starter that keeps moving around. But I think they're gonna get out and get a big bat and continue their ways. Willie Adames is someone that they're really gonna have to try to re-sign. He's having a stellar year. The rest of the division I cannot figure out, I really can't. The Cardinals are here and there, but at least they're 4 games above 500. They're in position here to make a move. I think. Watch out for them to be some real buyers. That's going to be awesome to see. And then the Pirates at 500 exactly. I don't know how much they can do, but I think they're going to try to get an outfield piece, maybe Taylor Ward of the Angels. The Reds, they've been disappointing pretty much all season long. They have to figure out what they're going to do with their manager, David Bell. I don't know how much their young talent's going to grow, but I was hoping just like who was I thinking? Just like the Tigers, that the Reds would start climbing up, but they're not. And then the Cubs, man, they already reached their ceiling. They already reached their high, and they've already come down to earth now. And I think people thought they were buyers a month ago, but guess what? They've turned that away, and now they could be selling some pieces off, and I'd be looking out for that. So I think Milwaukee's going to handle first place.
Greg?
As a Cardinals fan, I mean, I like the Brewers, but as a Cardinals fan, I mean, how could I not think that my Cardinals are going to make some moves and try to make a big splash? We've already came from the cellar and moved into second place. Several weeks ago, it wasn't looking good. I mean, my Cards couldn't win more than 2 games in a row. We had aging pitchers. We didn't have a lot of pop in the lineup. Things were very inconsistent. Now we've been putting together quite a string of wins. Sonny Gray's pitching great. He was a great addition. Lance Lynn still has good stuff. Contreras is having a pretty solid year. Of course, Goldie and Arenado are looking pretty good. I think that the one thing that we truly have been lacking for the last few years is that outfielder with pop. We've had more defensive minded outfielders that can track down a lot of fly balls, make great defensive plays, but not a lot of outfielders with a ton of pop. We don't have an outfielder with like Mike Trout pop. We end up getting these guys out in the outfield that have more like shortstop power. And so I think that if we could get a big hitting outfielder, another bat in the lineup, I think that we'd be great. When we lost Azuna, that was a big blow. Getting rid of Harrison Bader a few years ago, that was a big blow because he has a lot of speed, good contact, good pop, and so we've gotten rid of a couple pieces that we'd be in first place maybe if we wouldn't have dealt those guys or lost those guys to free agency. But I think that my Cardinals are gonna make some moves. I think that if Sonny Gray can stay healthy and keep pitching how he is, I think that we're gonna be able to close the gap on the Brewers. The Brewers have some decent pitching. They have some decent pieces, but this whole division I don't think has really a lot of standout, true elite players. I know that Cincinnati has De La Cruz. The Cubbies have a few guys, but I think that for the most part, you have a whole division that's lined up with guys that aren't like premier players. And so I think that it's going to be pretty competitive. But I think honestly, I'm going to sound like a homer here, but I think that my Cards have a pretty good chance at overtaking the Brewers if we can just get one more bat in the lineup.
I mean, anything's possible. It's technically still early in the season, but we are halfway through the season as things kick off tomorrow. And then you have the West, NL West. Unfortunately, the Dodgers are in first. 56 and 41. And then you have the Rockies at 34 and 63. Should we just say that the Dodgers are in the playoffs, unfortunately?
Yep.
Yeah. Greg?
Yeah, the thing is about the division, though, you have Arizona and San Diego basically going for the wild card. Giants are outside looking in. And then Colorado is just disappointing because their ownership is failing them. They can take advantage of having all those states around Colorado and all that coverage, but they fail to put out a great team. San Diego is so inconsistent. They have 2 starters on the IL, and either might not come back. Yu Darvish is back in his hometown, home country. Who knows if he'll pitch again this year? Joe Musgrove has another injury. He's out. They cannot make another move because they pretty much gave away their farm system for, Luis Ariz, Dylan Cease. Arizona was just bound to make a run. They just need to get hot, and they're going to get some of their starters back. They already have a great team. Remember, they went to the World Series last year. They're trying to duplicate what they had, but it's going to be tougher this year. It's not the same. But I really enjoy watching the Diamondbacks play. They play the game with speed and talent. Los Angeles, though, man, it's like the top 3. When you have Mookie, when you have Freeman, when you have Ohtani, it's just unfortunate because you can't walk all 3 to start the game or do whatever. You have to face those guys, and it's impossible not to get shelled by that lineup, at least the top 6. The problem is the 7 through 9 guys have to step up as well. The Dodgers, by the way, have 16 pitchers on the IL. They'll be active again in the before the trade deadline and making some moves possibly with the White Sox, I believe. But LA should hold on to first place.
Greg?
Yeah, I don't really see the Dodgers losing this division. I think that they just kind of have a stranglehold on it right now, and I think that everybody on everybody on here is not a Dodger fan by any means, but they have deep pockets year in year out. They go out and get somebody. Uh, like James said, they have one of the best top three at the top of their lineup. You start out with Mookie Betts, and then you got Otani, and then you got Freeman, and then after that you have the home run derby hitter, um, uh, winner with Teoscar Hernandez. Max Muncy, all or nothing, has a lot of pop, a lot of strikeouts, but there's not a lot of holes in the Dodgers lineup. There are a few holes, but their hitters have been so consistent. They're going to put up runs day in and day out. And I think that right now for the Dodgers, their weak spot is probably their pitching. Even though Glasnow's willing and dealing, he gives up a lot of hard contact. Bobby Miller has been very inconsistent and all over the place this year. They don't have like the greatest starting pitching lineup, but they're not bad. But I think that as far as this division's concerned, I think that the Dodgers have it. And as far as the Colorado Rockies, they're right up there with the White Sox and the Athletics for like the most embarrassing showing this season. You're talking about a a team that has just been dysfunctional. I don't know if it's the ownership, I don't know if it's the management, but every year the Rockies have players. They've had players come through their system. They have players on the team. This year, they signed Chris Bryant. They've had some really good all-star caliber players come through their system. They have decent players this year, but they just can't seem to put it together. Every now and then one of their starting pitchers will have a lights out pitching game, but for the most part, most of their pitchers are getting shelled this year. So it's just been a really sad showing. And then the drop off with the Giants. The Giants, one of those teams 10 years ago, they were winning the World Series every other year, and then they just really dropped off over the past couple seasons. And then the Padres, they had something brewing when they picked up Soto, and then they got rid of him shortly after that to the high bidding Yankees. So um, this division is basically the haves and the have-nots, and the Dodgers have the deep pocketbooks to always win this division, and it's sad to see, but that's just the way it is right now, the way that baseball's set up. Um, with allowing all these massive contracts and everything.
And even J Mac saying playoff baseball is all about pitching and defense.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy wants to know, when will the Angels get better? When will the Angels get better than the Dodgers?
That's my brother right there, and probably never, not in this lifetime. I think first the Angels have to go back to the ways that got them successful. Artie Moreno has to sell the Angels to someone who will just make them better, and on and off the field, new amenities, new ballpark, new way of doing things, just not cutting corners, just not losing, basically. They had the LA market, so to speak, but then they lost it. They let the Dodgers come back into people's minds. Said, "Oh yeah, there's a reason why they're here, and Anaheim's way down there. Why are they called LA?" That's why I mentioned California Angels earlier, Chris. It just makes no sense to be called LA 40 miles away. It's just ridiculous. And, I hate the way the team is, and I used to love them, and now it's hatred just because of one man, pretty much. It's ruined everything. They have the worst. No, the owner of the Angels. They used to have one of the best farm systems years ago. They have the worst. They literally ranked it at the worst. I was watching some of the draft after work on Sunday, and it literally said 30th in the league. And I thought to myself, man, there's no present and there's no future. How are you going to get after that? And then you pick the wrong free agents. You pick the wrong, pitchers in the draft. Remember in 21, they drafted all pitchers, all 20 pitchers. And hardly any of them amounted to anything as of right now. That's just ridiculous.
Bad when you go one in, all in on the position. And then just on one position and it doesn't work out.
It's amazing just how much one person can have a hold on something and then just make everything around them just tear down. And sounds like something else we all know, but yeah, it's pretty bad right now.
Right. And we're going to circle around back to the All-Star Weekend. James, what did you think of All-Star Weekend?
Well, believe it or not, Chris, I worked every function that happened when it was going on. I think the only thing I saw was the draft. I did catch a little of the All-Star game highlights, I should say. Ohtani hit one to Texas or Dallas. The jerseys were awful. I remember you were talking about it.
Yeah.
Last time we were on the show, and then today you were talking about it before I got back. I'm in favor of switching things around. So in the past, during the Home Run Derby, they had the teams wearing the themed, colored uniforms for wherever they were.
And that's
picture Seattle in 2001. They had the teal and then the navy blue for the Home Run Derby only. And then in the All-Star game, they wore their team's uniforms. I want to get back to that, but Nike will not allow it. Nike will keep bringing out these horrible-ass uniforms. I do not get the color scheme. I do like the hats, the way that the star was going along it, and the logo's right there in the middle. I thought that was cool.
But I think it's Fanatics now.
Right, but Nike designs the uniform, but Fanatics makes it with the less quality of the uniform, which has been an awful thing. Of course, they're going back to the old way. I wish Majestic was still doing it, honestly, but yeah, they're just ruining everything. Like, all the All-Star jerseys look bad. The City Connects look awful. Some of them do. I mean, I'm not going to brag. The Angels have one of the best, but I think Arizona has probably the best City Connect uniform. The Dodgers have, remember that confetti cake City Connect jersey.
Happy birthday!
I love confetti cake, by the way. But I hate the Dodgers. There's a catch-22 there. So yeah, I just wish it would go back to the old ways, but money talks. So they're going to keep bringing out these horrible-ass all-star uniforms just for that game, and we all have to look away. I hate it, too. It said American League and National League. We know what they are. Like, that was just stupid to me.
I know. It's like, this is this league. This is this league. And then somebody's probably going to go, but they're in the MLB. Why are they in different leagues?
That I never thought about that. If someone that doesn't watch baseball, just watches the All-Star game or the World Series every year, they'll get confused by that. That's true, Chris.
I mean, kind of like in what minor league, you got different minor leagues.
Oh yeah.
That's probably what. Oh, they're a minor league team. No, they're not.
It's just confusing all around for people that don't watch.
So
yeah, I didn't watch the Home Run Derby. I heard it was slower because they got rid of the time. Unfortunately, a Dodger won it. I was going for Bobby Witt Jr., and damn it, he got to the final round and lost. But I went for him. Every year I want the American League to win, and they won, I think, 10 out of the last 12 now, I want to say.
So they got rid of the timer? I didn't see the All-Star game.
I think or the home run. I think that's what it was.
So I wonder how did they get the totals they had, because
I don't know, man. I miss playing it on the video. I miss playing it on the video game though. That was awesome when I was playing on there. That was great.
800 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Ending the show with kind of a preview of what's to come tomorrow. Tomorrow starts all the games back up.
Oh yeah.
At 1 o'clock tomorrow, 1:20 Eastern time, or no, 2:20 Eastern time, 1:20 my time. So 11 o'clock in the Pacific AM. You got Arizona and Chicago. You have Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Cincinnati and Washington, Tampa Bay, New York, the Yankees, Detroit and Toronto, the Padres and the Guardians, Mets and Marlins, Cardinals and the Braves, Baltimore and Texas. That should be a fun matchup. Then you got the White Sox and Royals, Giants and Rockies, Angels and Athletics, A's, Boston and the Dodgers, and Houston and Seattle.
Cannot wait for that last one. I'll be watching that definitely as I try to get some sleep. But I will be watching that one, and that's for first place right now. That's going to be amazing. For my Angels, it's the last time in Oakland at the Coliseum there. Whatever.
I'm just kidding.
I do remember, I think, one divisional championship won there in 05. So there's a little memories there. That's pretty much it.
Greg?
Well, it's good to see some baseball back. I'm definitely not going to be hopping on the TV looking for the Angels versus the A's game or anything. So I definitely can do without that one. But I'm looking forward to baseball getting back. There's a few good games in there, but for the most part, sounds like there's a bunch of snoozers, coming back off the break. But that's okay. I think we'll see some pretty good marquee matchups as we continue, and I think that we're going to have a pretty good race. I mean, statistically, out of the 30 teams, there's only probably 5 teams that are mathematically pretty much done for at this point, so I'm not saying that, team 24 has a chance or will make it into the playoffs, but when I'm looking at the wild card matches and stuff, they're about 5 or 6 deep right now. There's probably about 7 or 8 teams in each league that has a chance to maybe sneak in and get a playoff spot. So at this point,
Going back to the All-Star game for 1 second, Jeremy's saying the radio show this morning said that they should just get rid of the All-Star game altogether. It's just all about money.
I'll tell you what, it's lost its luster. When you talk about in the MLB, there's interleague, right? Since 1997, but that only used to be in 1 month, in June. And before that, they used to have it every month, and they brought that back, and now everybody plays everybody at least once. So it's not like, hey, I can't watch Pete Alonso with the New York Mets every night. I have MLB.TV. I can watch him and the Mets whenever I want to from California. I don't have to wait for a game of the week on Saturday and hope it comes on. There's instant access to whatever team you want to watch, whether it's illegal or legal. So there's ways around them. And so there's not a dying, need to say, hey, I want to see Nolan Ryan face Jack Clark, or I want to see Fernando Valenzuela against Cecil Fielder in an All-Star game. No, you can see him every year, no problem. You can see Paul Skeens against Mike Trout or whomever,
You can
right?
watch him tomorrow if you want to.
Yeah,
If he's
so there's
pitching
not a a need to go just for an All-Star game to see what you want to see. You can see it anytime. Now in other sports, football, it's not worth getting tackled in a game that's meaningless. It's not worth in hockey and in the NBA to go hard because it's an exhibition and you can score pretty much whenever you want in those games. I don't know about soccer, but I'm guessing it's the same thing as hockey. But with MLB, as well as the uniforms too, it's just that's also a bad thing as well. I saw the colors today again, and I just thought to myself, man, they need to burn those in hell wherever they came from.
And as far as the schedule goes for tomorrow, it's going to be interesting with the Baltimore Orioles and the Rangers game.
Always.
It's going to be a statement game for them.
Mm-hmm.
If they can pull off at least 2 out of 3, I mean, I prefer all 3, but if they can pull off 2 out of 3, I'll be okay with that. And it'll probably cement us as, hey, we can possibly beat a good team.
Yep.
But as we close out, any final thoughts, James?
Also, look out for Boston and Los Angeles, not the Celtics and Lakers, but the Red Sox and the Dodgers for the World Series rematch from 2018. Mookie Betts facing his former team. That should be something, and I'm rooting hard definitely for the Red Sox there. Be sure to check out Entertainment Hour tomorrow here on Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. We've got some remembering to do. It's been a tough couple of weeks in the entertainment world. We've had some legends pass away, and we'll go through them all, among other things, including trivia and some top 10 lists. I'll have all that out for you and Randy out tomorrow, Chris, tonight. I'll get those out as soon as I can. We'll look forward to that and all the other programming Between the Ropes, of course, on Sunday with all the wrestling stuff I don't know about.
You'll get there.
I didn't even know John Cena was actually retiring. I didn't know where he was. Yeah, sure. Just check out all the programming on Coast to Coast. Stay with us. I dare you.
Greg?
Well, I'm just excited for the second half of the season. I think that we're going to have some really good races, especially for the wild card. There's a few divisional races that are going to be pretty tight. I think that the American League East is going to come right down to it between the Orioles and the Yankees. That's going to be a tight finish. I think that the Braves are going to put a little pressure on the Phillies. So I think that there's a few divisions to keep an eye on because it's going to make a complete difference between a team having maybe home field and end up being a wild card team. So I've talked a little bit about analytics and how managers use analytics and sometimes not in the best way. And I think that when it comes to free agency, mid-season trades, pickups, stuff like that, they need to do a better job with analytics. They do all this analytics in the games, but they don't seem to do very good analytics when it comes to actually making a trade or picking up players for their team. The Angels is a perfect example of going out and picking up free agents that were hot for a season or two and then just kind of fizzled out. So I think that down the road, no matter what team you're on, or what team you root for, I think that management needs to do a better job at trying to figure out what players are hot and are going to stay hot and try to figure out what players might fizzle out, because we've seen too many free agents over the past few years that aren't putting up near the numbers that they did when they signed that big contract, and it's really killing some of these teams with their payroll and stuff, and they're not getting their money's worth out of the players that they spent big money on. So buyer beware out there. All the teams, buyer beware. Just pay more attention, because just because someone hits 45 home runs 1 year or 2 years in a row, next thing you know, they hit free agency and then they go down to like 22 home runs, and it doesn't pay off. So, um, uh, that's all I have to say. I'm just excited for the end of the season. Go Cards! I don't think we're gonna win the championship, but at least we're not in the bottom.
That's right. And to close out the show, a couple comments for James, I think.
Who the hell is Daniel Jones? You suck at football. If that's him.
And into
Okay.
everything, yeah.
What's wrong with my hair? It's like good.
So with that, enjoy our week and weekend. We'll be back next week for On Deck. Enjoy baseball, and we'll see you guys next week.